All right. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Health Detective Podcast by Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. My name is Evan Transu, aka Detective Ev, and I will be your host for today's show, episode number 338 of the Health Detective Podcast. And I say this, I feel like all the time, so I hope I'm not too much of a broken record for people, but I'm consistently amazed by how large the space of medicine, functional medicine, natural health all is, that we can continue to bring on unique topics. And the topic that we're going to be focusing on in the I'll kind of call it the middle of today's podcast is not even something that is unheard of in the functional medicine space. It's something that you learn about pretty quickly, but it's we have a little bit of a twist on it. I'll put it that way. So if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, just read the title. That gives you a hint, and then we will dive into that today. But we do have quite a story first to get into. So I'll read our guest's bio, and then we will break this down. At age 23, Christian Hegarty, so we're talking to Jon Hegarty to be clear, this is his brother, ran out of options for his bone cancer. Moving into action, his older brother Jon left his New York City finance position to help find answers. The two discovered the world on a natural and integrative. The two discovered the world of natural and integrative medicine. Excuse me. Against all odds, Christian is 30 months in remission. This has marked the birth of Going Well. Going Well aims to inspire people facing cancer diagnoses to take control of their health decision making. The nonprofit has collected the most incredible and least likely of cancer survivors who, for no cost, are creating inspirational videos for people earlier in their cancer journey. Jon, what a cool way to take something so terrible and make it amazing. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here, Evan.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into it. So, I usually, the first question I always ask on the show is, what were your health symptoms like and when did they begin? Obviously, for this part, we're going to talk about your brother Christian. So, I have to ask, what did his health symptoms look like? Was there anything that preceded this cancer? Because I'm guessing he wasn't just getting a normal screen at that age. There must have been something that led to him going in and then eventually getting this diagnosis.
Yeah, he was 16 years old, sophomore in high school, and he had a pain in his right knee. He kept complaining about it. Went to the doctor. He initially got diagnosed with a form of growing pains called Osgood slaughter, but it continued to get worse and worse. And he kept coming back to my dad saying, I don't know, this growing pain's getting worse and worse. It's only in one knee. It's not in the other. And eventually, they took him to the emergency room twice, and then on the third time, they went in there and they actually had old X-rays from 6 months prior, that they hadn't looked at, and they said, "We don't even need to X-ray you at this point. We can already tell from these that you have a serious problem. You need to get to Boston Children's Hospital immediately, and we think you have cancer." And sure enough, he was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, a form of bone cancer.
Wow. And so, I guess, you know, on this show, I'm a little mean to Western medicine sometimes, not all the time. We're pretty objective, but with this one, I got to give it to them to some degree. I mean, that's not what you're suspecting in a 16-year-old kid at all, right? And I mean, that has to be fairly rare. I don't feel like I hear about that a lot, let alone in someone that young. How rare is it? Do you know?
It is rare. It's very rare. It's about 500 cases a year in the
Oh, geez.
U.S. And we're on Cape Cod here. Um, for a doctor on Cape Cod to see an osteosarcoma case used to be once in their entire career. Unfortunately, now we know of more, three or four just in our town.
Hmm.
But yeah, incredibly rare, and especially for doctors outside of major metropolitan areas.
So, and I don't want to put words in your mouth because it's a very serious conversation, but in a sense, is it fair to say it's almost a blessing that someone even found this so that something could be done about it? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, he had been, like I said, he had been complaining about it for a long time, and um, the original X-rays that he got, the doctors, I think they kind of had an oversight. They didn't really look at them until he went back to the doctor, 6 months after that. So, that was kind of frustrating, but we were glad that they did catch it, and that he's being treated by some of the best doctors in the world at Boston Children's, in Dana Farber.
When this initially happened, it doesn't sound like you guys were on the crusade of natural medicines, talking about sleeping grounded and all that stuff. That wasn't a thing at that time. So when did the transition come from, okay, scariest thing ever, someone in the family gets diagnosed with cancer, let alone someone this young, to, okay, now you're on podcasts like this. How did that transition occur?
Yeah, that's a great question. So he went down the conventional medicine route. Christian is such a strong kid. He's like 6'1", 180 pounds. And his thinking was, give me more chemotherapy, give me as much as possible so that I can really beat this thing and attack this cancer. And our whole family, extended family of 19 cousins, was all, really behind him and rallied up. But and he took that route and he had some success with it. He was able to reach remission and stayed there for 5 years, until 2020, when he and I were living together, and his cancer came back, and his oncology team said, Christian, on your 6-month scans, we noticed two small nodules came back in your lungs, positive for bone cancer. It's unlikely that we have anything that's really going to help you. We can give you more of the same chemotherapy drugs that you've already had, but they're unlikely to be of benefit. When osteosarcoma comes back, it tends to be twice as effective, or twice as toxic and half as effective. And So we're kind of between a rock and a hard place. And I had just read a lot, and was at a point in my life where I had really come to appreciate more of Eastern medicine
Mhm.
approaches, just started exploring, I would say, more than anything. And I ended up coming with a very strong conviction that, we're not going to do something that we know is not going to work. For Christian's case specifically, he's at a place where he was pretty much entirely out of options. And so I really, pounded my fist on the table and said, I don't know what the world of alternative, natural, and integrative medicine really has to offer at this point, because I'm no expert in it. But we need to give this our fair shot, because it's much better. It's presumably much better than a guaranteed lack of success.
What ah what was your guys' relationship like growing up? And the reason I'm asking this is because brothers, from my understanding, I had a younger sister and we still did the same thing. They're beating each other up, they're always competing. I understand that something so serious would separate those boundaries, but I mean, from my interpretation of your story, of what you said so far in the bio, I mean, this seems like you went well above and beyond what would be expected or normal for most family members, and it's really freaking cool. So, what is your guys' relationship like that it's this strong that you're willing to kind of give up everything that you're doing to help your brother?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So I was in finance, New York City, working on Wall Street, investment banking, private equity, and I was at a place in my life, frankly, where I was sort of making a lot of money, but wondering, like, what's the point of all of this? Like, how do I use my brain, my intellect, to do something good for the world? And so as I was thinking about transitioning out of finance, here my brother is with a impossible challenge. It just, the same fire that I had, that I brought to finance, I was able to just kind of reroute it to saving my brother's life. And it just kind of happened. It was right place, right time. I had the right perspective. It was, as much as it was me being there for my brother, it was also just something, a really tough problem for me to solve, and something that I got really, just really obsessed with and really into. So it was about, as much as it was about compassion for my younger brother, it was also just about, um, you know, achieving the impossible for me personally.
I okay, no, I can totally appreciate that perspective. I don't think people are that objective with themselves, right? And it's okay. I mean, it led to a good result. I don't think that's a bad thing whatsoever. I'm almost going back in my questions because I wanted to ask about the relationship, but first of all, and this is relevant to the next question. How old are you now?
I'm 30.
Okay, all right. So because I'm 28, going to be 29 soon, and I'm laughing because normally when I'm interviewing someone in the alternative health space, I'm usually interviewing people double my age, if not a little bit older. So it's always cool to see another young person, let alone a young guy. It's not something we get into by accident. You mentioned that even before Christian's technical second diagnosis here, that you were reading stuff. I think that's the exact words that you use, that you were getting open to this. And I know, I mean, even now, yes, the functional medicine and natural medicine space is becoming more and more popular. I certainly think people that I went to like high school with are much more receptive to the things that I talk about. But I really don't find anyone that's into this fully unless they had something going on with them. So I'm also curious about what was leading you to reading about this stuff. Was this because of what Christian dealt with in the past, or was it just, hey, right place at right time? I stumble across an article and I get interested in this alternative health thing?
Yeah, another great question. I think, 2019, we had the meditation movement, I call it, in the US, a couple successful companies. I remember, a very young, ambitious guy in finance. I remember watching Shark Tank, one of my favorite shows, and they had a meditation app, Simple Habit, featured on Shark Tank, and it piqued my interest, and I started to realize that meditation was, there was a lot of merit to it. It's not something that's really commercialized well, and that kind of was actually attractive to me. Wasn't just all about the money. And I remember one Friday night kind of staying in, laying low, and I'm a documentary person. I'm always trying to learn more, and I watched the Heal documentary on Netflix. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it was all about how powerful our mind is and how much more to health and healing there is out there than just traditional Western approaches. And that ended up being, it's easy to connect the dots looking backward, but that ended up being the perfect sort of prerequisite, to helping my brother, a year and a half, 2 years later, when he got that second diagnosis.
Okay, cool. It seems I am so interested, and anyone that's listened long term knows this. I am so interested in what allows certain people to deal with these very bad things and make the switch to being open minded to something else, because we all unfortunately know people who they're plenty intelligent. They're not dumb. They might even be very well educated in addition to being intelligent. And they'll get diagnoses like these. And some of these people will take it to their grave, literally, without ever trying something else. So I'm always curious, like, what is the difference, and can I give that difference to someone else? And I don't mean to be pessimistic. I'm not entirely sure that I can after all these interviews, because it almost seems to be wired in the DNA of the person. You just said it yourself. I'm just curious. I'm open minded. Like, you're ambitious doing finance, but yet you have the same ability under the age of 30 at the time to say, I wonder what's the point to all this. That's not how most people think, clearly. So it's a great thing for you. I wish I could give it to everyone else. In terms of the alternative habits, let's call them, or attempts that worked here. So we're kind of going back to the part of the story where, all right, Christian gets this second thing. You have now had these thought seeds of sorts planted in your mind over the last several years from the stuff that you've been seeing and saying, hey, we have no other options. We got to go all in with this, not because I'm saying it's right, but because right now these guys basically gave you a death sentence. So we got to try something else. So what were the first things that you guys tried in the alternative health space?
High dose vitamin C IV therapy. It's just an amazing option. If anyone knows anyone with cancer, I can't recommend it highly enough. High dose vitamin C. At that point in 2020, just to tell the story, Christian's completely out of options. I'm pounding my fist on the table. Some of our family members are, they think that he should go with chemotherapy and just pray that conventional medicine comes out with a better option in the months to years to come, which was, they were telling us wasn't going to work. And Christian ended up asking for a 5-week wait and see period where he would, his doctors thought he just wanted to kind of breathe and think through this decision. But behind the scenes, he did high dose vitamin C three times a week. And in those 5 weeks, he was able to shrink his cancer a little bit, say like 15%. But it gave him the confidence and the conviction that everything that I had been talking about, that there was real merit to it.
Mhm.
And we knew from that point forward, for better or for worse, we were going to be all in on natural and integrative medicine as, his primary way of health and healing.
That's so cool. All right, that's awesome. I don't hear about that enough, and the funny part is, I shouldn't say funny. There's nothing funny about it, but I wish people would do this more because it's widely available. All those places, guys, that you see popping up that are doing the IV nutrition, they offer high dose vitamin C normally. And if you're like, oh, that's not in my town, some of them have gotten a little more smart with how they advertise. And so you'll see them advertise sometimes as like hangover clinics because they get people in to restore their electrolytes after they're all screwed up. But the truth of the matter is you actually can get a lot of cool stuff there. So if people are wondering where to get that, that's available in almost every major city that I'm aware of. I'm in a small town. There's 2 places near me now that do this kind of stuff. So definitely not talked about enough. All right. So you get the cancer shrink by 15%, which, yes, on one end is small, it's still cancer, but I mean, to do that in a matter of weeks when you think the alternative is something obviously very traumatizing to the body and not a high chance of success at this point in the journey, yeah, that's pretty darn cool. So what other things were tried after that? Now that you got this initial spark of hope, especially in Christian, what other things were tried, and how does this eventually lead to grounding being one of the major topics that you're excited to share about?
Sure. Yeah, right along with high dose vitamin C was mistletoe therapy, especially for osteosarcoma bone cancer. It's for any kind of cancer. It happened to be standard of care in Germany, so we were asking ourselves the question: what would we do if we were in this situation in another country? Mistletoe therapy is an injection into a cancer patient's fat, stimulates the immune system, and has a very positive anti-cancer benefit. So that right there with it, those two are sort of we view as uh, a mainstays of the natural healing world when it comes to cancer.
And what
But
is that?
beyond that,
I'm sorry, I'd
so it's
never cut anyone off on the show. I actually don't know what mistletoe therapy is, and I'm assuming others might not know.
yeah, sure. So mistletoe it's an extract of the mistletoe plant, and it's a subcutaneous injection that you can get via prescription from a naturopathic doctor in the U.S. And you do it 2 to 3 times a week. You can do it at home if you're comfortable injecting yourself with a needle, which Christian was, and it causes a immune reaction right at the site of injection, and the body kind of produces this strong anti-cancer benefit in response. There are really no side effects. You might get the sniffles for a day or two. It's actually a good sign that the therapy is working as intended. So another amazing option. Yeah, a lot of these are just so underappreciated that you never hear about them. But mistletoe therapy, I we to tell you a little bit more of the story. I found a study on mistletoe therapy, 19 patients, and 10 of them took the exact chemotherapy drugs that Christian's oncology team was recommending. And sort of unsurprisingly, uh, as they had predicted for us, all 10 of them unfortunately had a bad result and eventually passed away. The other 9 patients out of the 19 were given mistletoe therapy alone, and 5 out of 9 of them were able to reach 5 years without having their cancer come back at all on mistletoe alone. That's at the time we were just getting into this, and we didn't know what was out there. And here it is, we found something that had saved 5 out of 9 people in our exact shoes, in Christian's exact position. So it was. A godsend of a therapy to find right alongside high dose vitamin C, and we probably did 50 other things as well, lifestyle, nutrition. We wanted to take as comprehensive as an approach as possible, and we looked at it more as it's not necessarily whether this particular therapy is going to work, but more from a point of how do we do as much as possible to give us the best chance of putting his body in an anti-cancer state and reaching remission.
Wow. I like what you said about when you're just getting into this. I think that is such a common experience for people. It was for me because we've been trained to think allopathically, Western medicine, our whole life. So we come into this looking for the treatment, the natural treatment. I just had a gentleman that I play a well, you actually probably won't laugh at this because it is taking over our generation. I've been doing recreational pickleball a lot, and so there we go. I had a buddy just ask me yesterday. He's got this neuropathy in his legs, and he is genuine. He means it well. He's like, "What can I take for this?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm more thinking about how we can change the overall lifestyle to do this." But that came 5-10 years down the line into this space. When you're first in it, you're like, what's the supplement, what's the thing? And to be clear, clearly there are very useful treatments. We can take it even a step further when we start addressing, okay, why might this have happened to someone like your brother to begin with? Like, yes, there's probably a genetic component here, but there's got to be something environmentally that led to this. And that's when you really get into the deeper holistic stuff. So I apologize because I ruined your train of thought at one point when I cut you off to ask about mistletoe therapy. You were going to end up talking about grounding and how that ended up being one of the sleeping grounded specifically, how that ended up being one of the alternative therapies that you guys seem particularly passionate about. So how did you discover that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, grounding, we want to take as comprehensive as of an approach as possible, and we started implementing different lifestyle and nutritional exercise, saunas, cold plunges. We wanted to at least consider everything from a research point of view. That I was doing all the research for my brother, and at least have Christian try something, see if it's something that really resonates with him, something that he can do sustainably, consistently over time. And along the way, we found grounding or earthing, and it was really amazing. What struck me most about it is because here I am recommending all this stuff to Christian, and grounding or earthing is something that he could do overnight all the time and takes no extra effort. So everything that we're doing, we're going to do anyway. Yet grounding was something that was net incremental to that. So I'll just back up a little bit. So the practice of grounding is an ancient, practice. It's been done in different across different cultures, spiritualities, religions. It has to do with the practice of walking barefoot outside or physically connecting one's body to the Earth's surface. And at that point, there's an electron exchange. The Earth physically gives us electrons, which have a very positive healing benefit. It reduces anti-inflammation, which can, prevent all forms of different disease. So to your point, everyone's looking for the treatment, but grounding is something that lowers inflammation and therefore has cascading effects over all aspects of human health. Um, but yeah, so what most people do understand, most people do realize is how much the sun benefits us, getting that vitamin D, getting outside. But what we sort of failed to realize, and I think people are really starting to come around to, is how much the earth actually gives us healing benefit as well. And so that physical contact with the earth is crucial. Today, in this day and age, if you think about it, everybody's walking around with rubber soled shoes that prevent that physical contact with the earth's surface. And I think it's totally underestimated how negatively this has impacted our health. And what we've done uh, we've created these a brand of products that allow you to get this benefit while you sleep at night. So they use your home's electrical system to connect you to the ground, physically connect you to the ground outside. We could show you this sort of with a multimeter, show you your body's voltage when you're not connected to the ground, and then when you are, and you can see you'll have like a 90% reduction in your body voltage, which is you can think of as a proxy for inflammation levels.
Are these similar to, or are they sleep mats, or is it something different?
So we offer pillowcases, fitted sheets, but there are other products as well out there. There are mats. You can work while you're working. You can be connected to the ground physically. I'm a big believer in getting as much time as possible connected to the ground. It's not a benefit that you notice. In the first 5 or 10 minutes of doing it, but certainly within the first 7 days of sleeping grounded, you should notice a deeper sleep, and less chronic pain, less anxiety. So I really like sleeping grounded because we focused on sleeping grounded because that was the 6 to 8 hours that you're stationary, the most important time of the day when you're getting the restorative benefit of sleep, in particular. So I think that's sort of a natural fit for people to go with the sleeping grounded.
Yeah, and Joel had asked on YouTube, what sleep map brands do you recommend? Well, here you go. I think this is a pretty fair one to talk about here. And John does have something for us, so stay tuned till the end because if you guys are ending up looking at his stuff, there will be a special code for Health Detective Podcast, which is awesome. I'm excited about this because I've been looking into this myself. We were just talking about that beforehand, and you brought up again the idea of treatments versus, hey, this is something natural that your body reduces inflammation and that can have these cascades of effects or a cascade of effects. And I see, I'm maybe some people disagree with me. I don't look at what you're doing like sleeping grounded as a treatment anyway. I know that it's modernized, right? That's pretty crazy that I could be sleeping on a second story floor and ground. That seems counterintuitive. But the reason that I don't look at it as a treatment per se is because to me, you're more hijacking something natural, right? You're making it more convenient so that we can still enjoy the modern things that we have. I can still have my air conditioning right now. I don't got to go sleep outside. And if I sleep outside where I live, I'm going to get a tick on me at night. I'm going to get Lyme disease. Like it wouldn't be a good bet for me to do that. So you're just trying to do something natural in a more convenient way. I think that's totally fine. That's like people that catch morning light on the way to work by rolling their windows down. It's like, all right, yeah, maybe you should have been standing out facing the sun. That's great. But, you could still have the modern convenience of driving to your job and you could still get some natural light while doing that. So I think that is natural. It's just a hijacked way to do it. And then we get these benefits over time. And when you're not doing things that are treatments, you don't see as quick as results, like you said, but it's like, what are the long-term benefits of doing this and what are the long-term effects of not doing it? I mean, I think we're seeing that, but it's hard to measure. I know that when I've seen some of this stuff online, and this is what caught my eye because I know that I should be grounding more, man. Like that's not a secret to me. I've been in this space for a while, but it's one of those habits that it's easy to do, it's easy not to do. This is no-brainer stuff, right? If I can do this while sleeping, it's not like I don't have the time for it. I got to sleep every single day. That's pretty convenient. So my next question is, what are some of the cool effects that you've seen not only in customers, let's say, but more importantly in Christian and yourself? What's happened after doing this consistently, not just 10 minutes one time, but over time doing this?
Yeah, I think the great question. I think the most noticeable benefit is sleep based. Just I've gone through periods of my life where I've had trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, work stress, etc. And when I started grounding, within the first 2 weeks, I noticed a much deeper sleep. I started to dream more, which some people don't really care for, but I do think it's positive and shows a higher amount of REM sleep. So I think that's sort of the place to start. I know older people will report much less, chronic pain, the aches and pains that everybody's been accustomed to kind of dealing with. Um, but the anecdotes go on and on and on. Everything from things that you would never even consider, like addictions to allergies. Um, all across the board. I haven't even gotten out of the A's. So we've seen a little bit of everything. I think most exciting for me is, recently we had a father of three with cancer who was on three different chemotherapy drugs. Um, Started him on grounding, and within a month was able to shrink his cancer markers 50%, and his oncologist recommended taking away one of his three chemo drugs, the one that was causing the majority of the side effects. So, if you think of that as a benefit, going from three chemotherapy drugs down to two, dropping the one with all the side effects, it's just like almost unbelievable the amount of human benefit people are getting from it. So I can't. And again, it's super easy. It's a one-time purchase that you can put on your bed and not really think too much about for the months to come. It's a no-brainer, and that's why I've uh, I've started going on podcasts and just trying to share the message as much as possible because fortunately, it's still kind of a niche, practice.
Yeah, no, it is. And like I said, as someone who's been in this space for a while, I think almost anyone, if they've been in it for a few months, they hear about grounding, earthing, whatever you want to call it. That's not like a secret, but it's like, okay, are you doing it though? And I think it's inconvenient, and that's half the problem. If I lived on the beach, like anytime I'm visiting a beach, I'll go. Obviously I'm not going to wear shoes. So I'll sit there for an hour with my feet in the sand and I'm grounding then. But right now it's like, okay, well, yeah, it's summer and again, the ticks are crazy here. And it's not like if, it's just more when. If I go walk for 10 minutes, 100% I'm getting a tick on me. Like, that's not even a question. So I kind of like, all right, at least I can have the shoes and socks to protect myself. So I know it's dumb, but I know I should be doing this. And then I haven't done it. And you kind of wonder, like, yeah, what is the long term effect of not doing this, especially if people can have this profound of results from doing it? I'm big on, like, if this is your one topic that maybe you love more than anything else in the alternative space, my one topic is the circadian biology side and light. And I know how different people feel just from a month of catching sunrise every day. I have literally watched women our age that had not had cycles in a year, like not actively had a cycle in a year, and it comes back within the month of them doing that just because their circadian rhythm was set. And I'm like, well, wait a second. This isn't a treatment, right? Just like we're talking about. This was
Right.
something that you were supposed to do every day anyway. And in 1 month, it did that. So, what the heck does this do when you do it over the course of your lifetime? How much disease would be prevented? You mentioned REM sleep, and I apologize if I missed something more specific. Are you tracking that? Like, are you seeing people with wearables like the Aura Ring or Whoop, or is it going up as they're using these grounding products?
Yeah, I have a Whoop myself, and I've been tracking the REM sleep, which has consistently improved the first 6 months that I was grounding. It's something that we want to do more of is track health stats to show more and more people the positive benefit of sleeping grounded.
Cool. All right. That'll be a really interesting one. If anyone out there ends up getting it, I should shout this out now so they don't get annoyed. Can we, it's a little premature for the podcast, but can we talk about what is the company's name? Where can people purchase it? And then I think you had some code set up for Health Detective Podcast. And if you don't have that, I can pull it right up, but I don't want to like make them wait for another 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So our brand is called North Star Grounding. That's northstargrounding.com. You'll find our site. And yeah, I recommend people start with either the pillowcase or the sheets. The pillowcase, the advantage, they work the same from a health and benefit standpoint. The pillowcase travels a little bit easier, and if you sleep with someone else and they're kind of some people are a little bit hesitant to bring their partner into it. They might want to start with the pillowcase, although there's no reason not to just go for the sheets. The sheets are maybe a little bit more expensive, but I like the sheets because you get more surface area, and it definitely I think is a little bit better of an experience. But either way, great place to start. That's northstargrounding.com if you want to check it out.
Yep, and I have it on the screen here because I did look it up. It looks like it was HDP 15 is the code, which is awesome. So thank you very much for that. And I corrected myself because I typed in North Start. I guess like my hand just automatically typed in start instead of star. So I have that on the screen. I'll leave that up for right now and probably the remainder of the podcast. We did have an audience member ask a question, and I'm guessing this is because this stuck out in my mind too. You talked about how you saw the REM scores and sleep scores increase for about 6 months. Tracy said, do the benefits of grounding continue or do they kind of fall off after a while? And I would almost say it's not that they're falling off, I guess, but like just, hey, you're back to homeostasis, you're back to normal. So have you found that to be the case for people?
Yes. So, sort of like how you hinted at here, Evan. I think when you first start, or when most people first start, the first few months, they really get the benefit, and they can get excited about it. Wow, I feel so much better. I'm sleeping better. This is amazing. But then, 6 months, a year down the road, you might not necessarily notice anything, but you're still getting the benefit because the alternative is not doing it and regressing to how you were feeling previously. So it's just something that we should always I think is a good practice. And again, I think everybody should be doing. I can't fathom any reason not to. And the benefits may feel like they disappear, right? You might like really appreciate them the first 6 months, but you're still getting that benefit beyond that, and it's certainly better than the alternative of not sleeping grounded.
Yeah, I think that's par for the course in the natural medicine space as we're readopting some of these habits. If I mean, now it's so normal for me to wake up with the sun and go to bed with darkness. If I tried to start doing that or stop doing that all of a sudden, I know I feel bad. I've had to do that for travel sometimes. Like, I feel like crap. Like, I used to stay up until 2 a.m. all the time. What happened? And now I just feel terrible if I do that. Or you eat a diet a specific way and then all of a sudden you feel bad. So, yeah, that's interesting to me, though, how long the improvements come, because again, it kind of begs this question: well, how detrimental has this been not doing this our entire lives? And not to mention getting 8 hours locked in. I mean, that's a huge jump to be able to do this, but it's not, I'm assuming it's not like you can ground, most people at least, the other 16 hours out of the day. So it's like, well, what happens when we do this 24/7 like we were supposed to be doing? I'm curious, do you have any tips for that or tools that you use? Because I've seen people use like grounding mats at their computer. I've heard about some other stuff. So, like, are you grounding all the time or just in sleep?
So I've been grounding while I sleep. I haven't really gone out much beyond that. I do have a wristband, and I do have the grounding mats that you mentioned. They're good. I certainly just think that sleep is sort of the most important, and
Mhm.
um, beyond that, I probably should be better about grounding 24/7. To your point, I know factory workers will work grounded, and they kind of always have, just to prevent like any electrical shocks, or of that sort. So that's sort of the reason that they were grounded. It wasn't really a health and benefit reason, but
Mhm.
yet they were getting the same benefit. Um, so yeah, I think anyone who nece- certainly anyone who has you know negative effects of electromagnetic stimulation. So if being in front of screens, and that's something that you sort of have to do for your job or for your life, I would definitely include grounding. That's where I would go with like grounding mats, grounding bracelets. Um, those are great options as well. I just our focus has been on sleep just because it's the easiest and the longest to do, but there's no reason to stop there. We also are planning on coming out with grounding shoes. So these are sneakers that, when you walk outside, actually have a conductive sole, and that allows you to maintain. To your point, you don't want to walk barefoot all the time. It's not only is it you get ticks and stuff, it's also just kind of socially weird. But
We're not there yet. Yeah.
yeah, shoes. Yeah, exactly right. Still have to fit in with society. Um, but yeah, shoes that have a conductive sole that allow you to physically be connected to the earth while as you walk outside.
These are kind of boring questions, but I'm just going to ask a few things it's mostly to help you guys out, because whenever I get ads for stuff like this, I see this come up in the comments over and over again. So for those of us less technologically inclined, and we're sitting here thinking, well, wait a second. So I plug something into the outlet, I sleep on it, and am grounded and it's safe. Now, I'm not a genius in that area, but I have looked into this. So I know that it's safe, to be clear. But can we explain to people how sleeping on something or with something that's technically plugged into something is safe? It's not going to electrocute you. Can we explain how that works?
Yeah, so it's not you plug it into the third prong of a three-prong outlet, which is the ground of your home system. So that is effectively, from an electromagnetic standpoint, connecting you to the ground outside. There's no flow or current of electricity. It's not like you are physically plugged into you couldn't turn on a light bulb with the ground outlet. That's the third outlet, the third prong of a three-prong outlet. Um, so yeah, it's completely safe. There's no concerns around. It is, for the first time, plugging a pillowcase into the wall is sort of seems strange. Um, but there, you won't get shocked. You won't get electrocuted. All that it's doing is connecting you using your home's electrical system, using the ground feature of it, um, to the earth outside. So completely safe.
Okay, and then some questions that I've always been curious about because I don't think I could explain. I could have explained that. I don't think I could explain these particularly well. There's some people that talk about, hey, I have really old outlets in my house and I don't have the third prong. So I'd want to know, is there even an option for people like that? And then number two, this is probably just a stupid paranoid comment because I don't know why this would matter, but it has gotten me thinking. Some people were saying, should I still be using this during like a lightning storm, right? Or a thunderstorm or something. So, two questions there. One, what do I do if I only have two prongs in my house, which is probably few listeners, but it does exist still. And then two, is there any time that you should unplug this, or is it literally safe all the time and people need to stop being worried?
Yeah, so for anyone with an old house, we recommend reaching out to us, and we help you get to the bottom of it. What we can do is we can actually test whether you're grounded or not using a multimeter, or some of our testing products. Generally, homes I've seen are all up to code and up to date, but for some homes built before 1960, it is it's worthwhile to kind of check and test,
Mhm.
which is probably not necessary for homes that are newer than 1960. You can kind of just plug it in and assume that you're a good and ready to go. And then your second question, oh, during a lightning storm. So the only this is like outside theoretical risk, and it's not even something that we do. Would be is if there was a lightning storm and you had a grounding rod out through your window and you were sleeping grounded, sort of the combined effects of two grounding systems at the same time, one connected to the earth outside and one through your home's electrical system, could have a sort of theoretical risk um, of getting electrocuted from lightning, or being sort of more exposed to the lightning chance of a lightning rod. But that's a not something that we're even doing in this situation, and b it's highly improbable. So um, not something to worry about.
You know what? Regardless of how unrealistic that situation is, it's nice to hear someone like you say that because it gives us confidence as consumers. We're like, all right, I don't fully understand what that means that he just said, but it sounds like he's thought about this, and that's good. It's just good to know that you've thought about it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a one in a million thing. If you had that set up, that we're absolutely not recommending that you have. So
Okay.
that's the level of safety that we're talking about.
Fantastic. I also wanted to spend some time talking about going well because it seems to be like a separate kind of project that you guys work on. I'd love to know where Christian's at now. So, just a few things going through my head about like, yeah, where's his health at currently, and what is going well because that was something that was in the information sent over to us, and this seems amazing.
Yeah, Christian's doing incredibly well. He's coming up on 3 years in remission after being told he was completely out of options, and us taking a natural and integrative approach. And he recently had a surgery on his right leg, unrelated to cancer, sort of related to all of the previous surgeries that he's had on his right leg. He had broke a cadaver bone that was in there. His right leg's been infected at one point. Um, so he recently had a surgery, actually an amputation, mid calf amputation. So now he's sort of dealing with rehabbing from that surgery, and dealing with just, I think, more of the mental side effects of figuring out who you are now that you are an amputee. Um, but outside of that, his life is going really well. He's got a girlfriend of a few years. He still lives with his college roommates. So taking this natural and integrative approach has afforded him to not only face the awful scenario that they were sort of uh, they gave us as a prognosis, but um, to lead a relatively normal life. Looking at him, you wouldn't know that he had cancer, other than, of course, now his leg. Otherwise, he looks very healthy. He's strong. He's fit. He's yeah. So it's been a real godsend, not only in saving his life, but his quality of life as well. And so as coming out of all of this, and we've learned so much, and we've had such deep conviction in natural integrative medicine. It's almost There's almost nothing more. It's really, at the end of the day, it's not about Western medicine or natural and integrative medicine. It's really, there's nothing more important to someone's health than just being in rhythm of the universe, or however you want to say it. You talk about circadian rhythm and light. Um, we've kind of believed there's really nothing more important, and so we started going well to help more cancer patients consider implementing natural and integrative therapies. So what we've done is we've collated some of the least likely, some of the most incredible cancer survivors, people who for which conventional medicine simply can't explain their success. People who have reached stages like Christian, then went natural and alternative, and have been able to heal. And these survivors are making videos, personalized videos for patients earlier on in their journey. So if anyone listening to the podcast knows anyone with cancer, you can go to goingwell.org. It's completely free. You can order a video from a survivor, hopefully find someone that's somewhat relevant to your friend or family member who's currently in treatment, and they can share with them their perspective, what they went through, how their mindset changed toward natural medicine, and maybe even give some specific health tips on what they would do if they were in their shoes. And for us, there's been nothing more valuable than this. Along the way, we found uh, part of the story I didn't tell you is we found an osteosarcoma survivor who was 8 years clean after reaching my brother's point. And so for for us, he gave us so much inspiration that there was a path forward, and ended up hiring his naturopathic doctor and doing a lot of the same treatments that he did. So hearing that N of one of somebody's out there who was in my shoes and found a way through is just so valuable. And that's what we're trying to give more patients earlier on, because we can't help but think to ourselves, if we were taking a natural and integrative approach from 2013 rather than 2020, how much faster we'd be able to get to success.
Yeah. Wow, man, you guys, and I mean this seriously. I'm not someone who flatters people. That's not me at all. You guys are like the exact reason we do the show. This is awesome. It's taking these really crappy situations that are not fair. No one asked for it. And it's how do I make the most of it? I've been through my own unique stuff. And frankly, I think it's like the only point of all these things, right? That's you make sense of things that are insensible. And I'm going motivational speaker mode now, but there's one of my favorite quotes that says the final stage of healing is using what happened to us to help others. And that's when you can make sense of things that just otherwise don't make sense. So glad we got to do this interview today. One more time. So goingwell.org is the place where they can find the videos. And I'm about to use this immediately today. So thank you for this resource. I wish I had this when my aunt was still alive. I will immediately be ordering your guys' stuff. So can we just remind them one more time? What is the website for that? And then I have the code in the thing.
Absolutely. Goingwell.org to order the personalized video from a cancer survivor. Completely free, donor funded. We pay our survivors for their time so that they can really give a good uh, overview, a good, thoughtful response. We get some personalized information. Once you order the video, we'll send you a context form so you can tell us who it is, what they're facing, treatment decisions, how far along are they in sort of the natural and integrative world, and then we provide that to our survivors to kind of make a very powerful personalized video for them. So that's goingwell.org, and then the grounding site is northstargrounding.com. Code HDP15 for 15% off, and we're excited to get you grounded as well.
Amazing. Our signature question on the show to finish up today, and I might be able to guess the answer, but I'm occasionally surprised. Sometimes people answer this with a answer that has nothing to do with what we talked about today. The signature question is, if we could give you a magic wand and you could wave it and get every single person in this world to do one thing for their health, whether that means you can get them to start doing one thing or stop doing one thing, and it can be grounding. It's all right. What is the one thing that you'd get them to do?
It certainly is grounding, but I'll give you a second one
Thank
just
you.
to just for the hell of it. Uh, Man, so I've really come to see the value in meditation. So I'm going to go with meditation. I think it's equally as underappreciated and not something that we do enough of.
John, you rock, man. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for everyone who tuned in today. We appreciate you.
Evan, thank you so much, and I hope everything. I hope you get all the blessings in the world with all